Have you ever vacuum sealed? Today, we're going to talk about Vacuum Sealing 101 and the 4 steps to preserving food. Hello, everybody. My name is Deb from Just Do Something Homestead, and one of the passions that I have is teaching others how to vacuum seal. And if this is your first time joining us, I welcome you and thank you so much for giving us the opportunity to share what we know about homesteading. Let's jump into today's topic, which is Vacuum Sealing 101. We'll talk about everything you need to learn about vacuum sealing, from the equipment that you need to why you should vacuum seal, the types of foods that can safely be vacuum sealed and the ones that should not, and lastly, the steps needed to seal and store your food. Trying to find all organic is not only difficult, but very expensive. I can't tell you how appalled I was by the cost of these groceries. You're going to notice that mostly what I purchase is organic, and I'm fully aware of how expensive organic food is. But my thought is, if I'm going to be saving this food for 5 years, 10 years, I want it to be healthy food. And the healthiest I can find, other than what I can grow, is organic. So whether it's organic or not, all of the foods we're going to talk about today can be vacuum sealed safely and stored for years. Number 1, the very first thing we're going to talk about is equipment. One of your most expensive items you will purchase for vacuum sealing is in fact your vacuum sealer. This is my absolute favorite sealer, and I honestly have many. This is the Food Saver FM5200, and you may see it looks like a duplicate in the background. That's because I have 2 of the exact same model. This is my original one, and I hesitate to say when I got it. It was either 11, 12, 13, 14 years ago. It is running strong after heavy use. Now, there are tons of vacuum sealers on the market. You can go everywhere from a handheld rechargeable, a mason jar sealer, a Food Saver all-in-one, all the way up to commercial ones. The choice is yours. But here is a key point. If you're going with one of these machines, make sure it has a port. It needs to have the accessory button and this cord that's going to hook onto your jars. And that leads me to the jar sealers itself. This was not included in my original one. I ordered these on Amazon for about $13.99. My latest one did include it. In fact, this is the one that was included with my Food Saver. The only problem is this is a regular mouth, which if you're only sealing regular mouth, you're fine. But I usually do wide mouth. You're going to need a vacuum sealer, but the next thing you're also going to need, and that is canning jars. You can use any canning jar all the way from a 1/4 pint on up to a 1/2 gallon. And as you can see on my shelves, I almost exclusively use 1/2 gallon. There's a quart right there on the end, but for the most part, I'm going to put them in big jars. I buy jars wherever I can find them cheapest. Now, usually I stick with Ball, only because it's proven to be a winner with me. I don't have a lot of false seals. In fact, I really do not have false seals with vacuum sealing, only with canning. I wish I could find these 1/2 gallon more often in the thrift stores, but most people tend to hold on to them. Besides thrift stores, look on Marketplace, yard sales, and ask your friends. I posted on Facebook a few years ago that I was going to be canning a lot that summer, and I had people donate cases and cases of canning jars. It is always worth asking. 2 other things you're going to need is flats or lids and the rings. Now, if you're buying new jars, they're going to include the flat and the ring. And here's the best news of all. You can reuse both of these over and over again for vacuum sealing. Looking for a way to store all those rings? I use a metal paper towel rack that I got at Dollar Tree. If you're sealing powdery items like sugar or flour, you're going to want some cupcake liners. These are all natural. They're a little harder to find, but I think they're worth it. And don't forget a Sharpie to write on the lid, because trust me, you will forget what you put in that jar. And more importantly, you're going to forget when you sealed it. The last thing that I have is a wide funnel, and I use that so I don't spill all my food all over my countertop. And let's move on to number 2. Why do you vacuum seal? Vacuum sealing your food extends the best by date. So we're looking right now at a thing of ground coffee. They say it's good until April of 2026. That's actually pretty good. But by vacuum sealing it, I can get it at least 1 year longer. Coffee's a little tricky. It can get rancid. So different foods have different times that you can store them, but they all will extend the best by date. The next reason to vacuum seal is to keep your items from getting stale. How many times has someone in your family opened up a bag of crackers and didn't seal it? Now I just vacuum seal them and they stay fresh. The next reason is to keep all bugs and critters out of your food. Cereal is one of those notorious items for getting bugs in it. But if you think about it, the bugs were already in it before it arrived in your home. The thing is, bugs need air to survive. When you vacuum seal it, you're removing the air. And if you remove the air, the insects cannot live. Yes, you now have dead insects, but I would rather have dead insects that hadn't hatched than have live ones living in my pantry. Either way, pretty gross. Another advantage is it is rodent proof. You may have some of these in your home, and I have quite a few of them. But again, you can have a rodent just come into your pantry and go hog wild and chew into these packages. They cannot do that with a glass jar. And the last reason is to save money. Today when I went to Ollie's, it was $1.99 for their organic brown rice. But whenever they put their mark on, it's half off. This is not expired rice. I was able to buy all the packages, and because I know how to vacuum seal, I can store it for years. Number 3, what can you safely vacuum seal? Out of everything I'm asked about sealing food, this is always the number 1 question. The most basic answer is you can vacuum seal any dry items that are intended to go on a shelf. Now, of course, there are a few exceptions in there. I don't vacuum seal raisins because the moisture content is too high. I don't vacuum seal nuts because they become rancid. Any kind of chips or crackers that are fried or anything that has a high percentage of fat should not be vacuum sealed. Remember, vacuum sealing is not replacing canning. Fresh foods like these cannot be vacuum sealed unless you're simply doing it to stick them in your refrigerator and use them in the next few days. And that leads us to number 4. What are the steps needed to seal and store vacuum sealed foods? The very first thing you need to do is wash all your jars in hot soapy water and dry them completely. Moisture is the worst thing to come in contact with your vacuum sealed foods. Next, you fill your jars. I like to use this funnel to make sure it all goes in. Once my jar is filled, I move the funnel and it looks like it goes pretty close to the top, but I'm going to start shaking it around, thumping it on my counter, and having it settle down towards the bottom. See how much it's gone down? Now I can add more rice into this jar and fill it to the top. Now when I say top, I'm leaving about a 1-inch headspace. I look for this lowest rim, and that's what I usually aim for. With my clean hand, I'm going to wipe the rim of the jar and then place on a flat. This one is used. You can see the soap marks on it, but you can use them over and over again. The jar sealer fits right on top of that. Push it down hard until it snaps in place. You want to push that port down as far as it'll go. And then all you need to do is turn on your food saver and hit accessory. Your food saver will shut off all by itself. Remove the port and the jar sealer. And the next step is really important. You want to check to make sure it's sealed. Now I can see there's kind of a glare on here. I can see, there it is, that this lid has an indent in the center. That means it's been pulled down. But I'm still going to go around and tug on the outside of that flat to see if I can get it off with my fingers. But this jar is completely sealed. Isn't this a cute ring? This is something I found at a yard sale. But you want to put your ring on the lid. And I know that's opposite of canning where you don't put the ring on. But here you're going to put the ring on so that if it gets bumped, you're not going to lose that seal. Okay, this is the question everybody has. How long can I store this rice? Well, what I've done on the lid with a Sharpie, I wrote Organic Quick Cook Rice, BB, which is best by January 2031. What I've done is I've added 5 years to that January 2026. I have easily been able to have rice stored for 5 years. I've had rice stored for 10 years, and it is just fine. But I need a starting place, and for rice, I go with 5 years. But let me tell you something. This date is variable. I know I can store it for 5 years, but that has everything to do with how it is stored. All of your vacuum sealed foods need to be in a cool, dark place. This is my pantry. It is temperature controlled, and unless I'm in here filming, it is completely dark with no windows. That is the way you get to extend it. If it's too hot, like 80 degrees in the summer, your food is not going to last. If it is bright light, the same thing. It needs to be dark and cool. Over the next few days, I am going to be vacuum sealing the rest of the food. I'm not going to do that in a video. It would go on for hours. The only difference when I'm doing my flour, it can be vacuum sealed. Once I have it in my jar, I'm going to put on a cupcake liner, and that's as simple as that. It's just going to rest on top of the flour, and that will prevent the flour from being sucked into your machine. Not only can it be sucked into the machine, but it can end up putting a powder across the top of the rim and not give you a good seal. So anything that's powdery like sugar or flour, you want to put a barrier in between. Another big question I constantly receive is, can you vacuum seal cane sugar? You definitely can. When I vacuum seal sugar, it does not turn into a brick. I have some sugar here that has been vacuum sealed for a decade. The difference is you don't want moisture to get into your sugar. So it's vacuum sealed. It's not going to get all the humidity from the air. Can you vacuum seal fruits and vegetables? You absolutely can. But there's 2 different ways of doing it. First, you can simply take your fresh fruits and vegetables, put them in a jar, and stick them in your refrigerator vacuum sealed. They will last fresh longer, from a week to maybe 2 weeks. But what I like to do for long-term storage is to dry them out. So I take our fresh produce, I dehydrate it, and when it's completely crisp, then I vacuum seal it. If you ever have any questions, please just put them in the comments below. Tell us what you love to vacuum seal. What is your favorite product or item? If I go up a little bit higher, you will see my jelly bean collection. Yep, go back and you will see some older videos where I vacuum seal Easter candy. Thanks so much for joining us on the Homestead today. If you like this video, please like, subscribe, and share. Have a blessed day, everybody. Bye-bye.